Talking about Zika virus associated with microphaly. Definition: Zika virus is a mosquito-transmitted flavivirus that was identified for the first time in macaques in 1947. The incubation period is a 3 or 14 days. Most infected people are asymptomatic. Symptoms usually mild and last 2 or 7 days, consist of fever, rashes, conjunctivitis, muscle and joint pain, malaise and headaches. Infection during pregnancy is a cause of microcephaly and other congenital malformation. Complications of pregnancy such as premature birth, miscarriage, and intrauterine death.
The World Health Organization declared a public health emergency of international concern over the Zika virus. Here's everything we know so far. Samples of the virus were isolated from a captive rhesus monkey. The next year, scientists recovered the virus from an Aedes africanus mosquito in the same forest. 4 years later, the first cases of the Zika virus are found in humans, both in Uganda and the United Republic of Tanzania. In 2007, the first large outbreak of Zika is found on the Pacific island of Yap, with 185 suspected cases. Prior to this, only 14 cases of Zika had ever been documented. On March 2, 2015, Brazil notified the World Health Organization of an illness causing skin rashes in the northeastern states. Zika was not a suspect at this point, so patients were not tested for it. As of February 2016, Brazilian national authorities estimate between 500,000 and 1.5 million cases of the Zika virus, and a total of 39 countries reporting local circulation of the disease. Zika spreads when an infected person is bitten by an Aedes mosquito, and then the infected mosquito goes on to bite someone else. If a pregnant mother contracts the virus, it can be passed on to her unborn child. Although the virus has been spreading quickly, only about 1 in 5 people who contract Zika actually become sick. The symptoms of Zika are generally mild, including fever, skin rash, red eyes, muscle and joint pain, and headache. The symptoms generally clear up within 2 to 7 days and can be treated with some common pain and fever medicines. What's troubling about Zika is the increase in a disease known as newborns to be born with a small head, or have heads that stop growing after birth. If the smaller head affects brain growth, it may cause developmental disabilities. Currently, health officials are researching the possible link between the Zika virus in pregnant women and the increase in cases of microcephaly. It is recommended that pregnant women in the affected countries take extra precautions to avoid mosquitoes until more is understood about the virus. The World Health Organization has drafted a $56 million strategic response plan to provide surveillance of the Zika virus.
Application in medicine. There is no specific treatment for Zika virus infected, and there is no vaccine at present time to prevent Zika virus infection. The most effective way to prevent infection is by avoiding mosquito bites, implementing the use of mosquito repellents.
So what is this mysterious virus, and how do we stop it? Hi guys, Julia here for D News. Zika, a strange mosquito-borne virus, is sweeping through many Central and South American countries. Current estimates place the number of Zika cases over 1 million in Brazil alone. And in response to the outbreak, the CDC has implemented 2 new travel bans to an already large list for pregnant women, one on the United States Virgin Islands and the other on the Dominican Republic. The ban is for pregnant women specifically because since the epidemic started, the incidences of microcephaly, a devastating birth defect, have skyrocketed. Microcephaly is a condition where a baby is born with a small head. Because the head is so small in those born with the condition, the brain is small too, meaning it's underdeveloped, which can cause a whole range of other health issues, like cognitive deficits, seizures, feeding problems, vision problems, and hearing loss. Unfortunately, there's no cure for the condition, only treatments for its effects. Microcephaly is typically seen in rates of about 2 in 10,000 births, according to a study published in the journal Birth Defects Research. But nearly 4,000 cases have been reported in Brazil since October. That's nearly 26 times the normal rate. And researchers strongly suspect that the birth defect is linked to the Zika virus. Now, this epidemic seemed to have come out of nowhere. The mosquito that carries the virus was pretty much eradicated in Brazil in the 1950s. But as the decades wore on, it made its way back. Then, last year, reports of Zika in Brazil started popping up. It wasn't taken too seriously since its symptoms in adults are mild, just things like a fever or a rash. It wasn't until the rate of microcephaly shot up that the world started to take notice. Now the battle against Zika is underway, and one that Brazil is badly losing, according to the health ministry. minister, and it is literally a battle. 220,000 members of the armed forces are going door to door to help in the current mosquito eradication efforts. But it's not just Brazil. Zika has been reported in 24 regions around the world, mostly in tropical areas. Each country is issuing warnings. Some seem extreme. For instance, the government of El Salvador told women to avoid pregnancy for 2 years. As for the Zika virus itself, there's no treatment, vaccine, or cure. The CDC says the best way to avoid the virus is to avoid mosquito bites. Now, experts say that a U.S. outbreak is unlikely to occur. They believe that most cases will happen to those who travel to Brazil and other affected countries. But this summer, tons of people will descend on Rio de Janeiro for the 2016 Games, which some experts are calling a perfect dissemination vehicle for Zika. If people travel to Brazil, get Zika from a mosquito bite, then return home and get bitten there, the Zika virus could transfer to the local mosquito population.
Pros and cons. Pros. Lately, we want to implement the use of virus for the treatment of gliomas. The concept serves as similar to those present in the developing brain, which suggests that virus could be used to specifically target and avoid normal brain tissues. Cons. The Zika virus can also cause congenital Zika syndrome, which includes these birth defects, severe microphaly with a short partly sunken brain damage, a disease reduction in the brain, damage to age, Jones problem including limited of movement, body movement reduced to much muscle time after birth. The Zika virus can also cause other neurological disorders such as Guillain-Barré. Insect applied in Ecuador. Winning the intersectional action for the fight against the Zika virus in Ecuador, the Ministry of Public MSP works in coordination with other states' portfolios to reinforce vector control in rich areas. In 2016, pregnant women were registered with Zika. 2% of them had babies with the congenital syndrome associated with the virus. Conclusion. Zika virus is a virus that is transmitted by the Aedes mosquito. There is still no vaccine against the infection and can cause mild fever, headache, conjunctivitis, and microphaly. Zika virus causes malformations during pregnancy, such as microphaly, Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Since the emergence of the Zika epidemic in 2015, Zika virus infection during pregnancy virus infection during pregnancy has been shown to cause severe birth defects, including microcephaly and neurologic, ocular, and musculoskeletal defects. Previous studies found the risk of Zika-related congenital neurologic defects ranging from 6% to 42%. A prospective cohort study followed 546 pregnant women in French territories of the Americas who were diagnosed with symptomatic and PCR-positive Zika virus infection from March 2016 through April 2017. Among the pregnancies followed, 5% resulted in pregnancy loss and 95% in live births. Fetuses from terminated pregnancies and stillbirths, as well as live-born infants, were examined for outcomes that were potentially associated with Zika infection. Microcephaly was identified in 5.8% of fetuses and infants. Neurologic and ocular defects were seen in 7% of all fetuses and infants. And there was a significantly higher prevalence when Zika infection occurred earlier in pregnancy, 12.7% in first trimester infections as compared with 3.6% in second trimester and 5.3% in third trimester infections. The authors conclude that among pregnant women with symptomatic and PCR-confirmed Zika virus infection, birth defects potentially associated with Zika infection were present in 7% of fetuses and infants, and were more likely in mothers infected early in pregnancy. Longer-term follow-up of infants is needed to assess possible Zika-related manifestations that were not detected at birth. Full study results are available at nejm.org.
Thanks.